light. At the foundation of all things, there is light. Measurable physical light, so energy and vibration, they form the basis of the universe. Matter, which feels solid to our senses, is not solid in truth. Matter is bound light. Matter is folded energy. E equals mc squared, the great equation of Einstein, explains that matter itself is energy. Light and the energy that originates from light are the substance of the universe. Everything we witness in the cosmos and in nature is an expression of the divine light. Even scientifically speaking, we can say that we come from light and we return to light. Because when two photons, so two particles of light, collide with enough energy and under the right conditions, then the result is the creation of an electron and a positron. And the positron is the antiparticle of the electron. So, in other words, particles of matter emerge from the collision of light with light. And what happens when matter and antimatter meet? These particles annihilate while light stays behind. Matter is taken back to its source and transformed back into radiant photons. Two things that appear opposite, matter and antimatter, are the outcome of the same light, because when matter is created, then also antimatter is created. And in their meeting, they return to the source and become light again. This is a teaching found in physics, and it is also a great universal knowledge that has existed throughout all ages. They all point at the same. The world is made of light, and we are made of light, living in a world of light. And to make it even clearer that all comes from light, science even tells us that we ourselves are made of atoms that are born in stars. We know that, for instance, the human body is composed of elements such as carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and iron, all of which are produced by a process called stellar nucleosynthesis. For instance, the carbon in our cells and the iron in our blood were formed in the cores of stars. These elements were distributed across the galaxy by supernova explosions, so we are basically composed of light, walking in a world composed of light. But often it doesn't really feel that way because we ourselves obstruct the light. We keep the hand of God, which is the absolute harmony hidden within the light, from giving its harmonious touch. Just like all matter is eventually annihilated and turns into light, likewise, we need to surrender our self-centered reactions like feelings of resentment, pride, inadequacy, slander, gossip, hate, and so on. These are our poisons, and we would do so much better if we gave them over to their antimatter. Then the light of renewal would burst forth as a victory. But still, we have our reactions. So how can we break with these shadows that play in us? We can do this by looking deeply at the aspects that we know in ourselves as not helpful to our process. Already when we start to look at those things with honesty, their heavy structures start to fall apart, and light is being released into the cracks that appear, and it drives the dark matter away. This is why a pure, non-judgmental, and open heart, along with a clear mind, are not just poetic sounding ideals, but these are energetic necessities. Where matter and antimatter meet, a photon explosion is the result. Where the I-centered being dies, light is the result. So the clearer that our awareness is, the more the hidden light of our being reveals itself. And like this, we undergo a transmutation by reality and truth. We transmute by seeing the true state of our being, by knowing that we ourselves obstruct the light, that we need to release these obstructions so that they can also turn into light. That is, of course, easier said than done. So let's look at this also from another perspective that is a little less abstract and maybe uh, more from our direct experience. So even though we are made of light, even though our body is born from the matter of stars, why do we often feel so far away from that light? Why do we experience so much heaviness and so much fragmentation despite of that light? We don't feel this because the light is gone. The light is and never can be lost. It is everywhere and in everything. But what happens within us is that the light is veiled by a horde of critical thoughts and opinions, things that we rigidly hold on to because of their familiarity. And this all creates some feeling of safety. The light is veiled by emotions that keep us spellbound without any release. The light is veiled by the masks that we constantly create. Our mask tries to protect us from all sorts of imaginary enemies, while it covers at the same time the open space of our soul, hindering the connection to the world around us and to the souls of others that are in the world around us, unavailable for our heart to touch theirs. Also, when we leave our minds unattended, it tends to become entangled in its own creations. Our mind tends to replay the scenes of past wounds while it tries to prepare itself for an imaginary future. And it tends to construct layer upon layer of illusion. Our mind also tends to move impulsively, trying to defend its identity and to prepare itself for unknown threats against its image. It does this by impulsively and compulsively lying, comparing to others, criticizing others, and controlling others. And our minds are always busy with that in some way or another. They are seldom resting from all this critical business. But when we allow these reactions that we have to settle, then our mind becomes something entirely different. Our mind becomes still. And it starts to reflect the luminosity of the light in all those directions where it can heal. And where does this light come from? In essence, the light is everywhere, but we say, together with the ancient wisdom teachings, that this light is released from the heart. In us, the light is released from what we call the spirit spark, the fiery living root of our being. We don't see the heart as an organ that just pumps blood. To us, the heart is a living altar of the divine. And we have to keep our attention on the altar because the fire of our altar is smothered when our heart is divided by our mind. Our fire dims when we waste the grand power of our tongue for spitting words like arrows of judgment, when we slander full of bitterness and deceit. Our fire dims when our words smother it with a web of our own lies. We lock the fire in a hidden tomb by our hardened criticisms. It is filled with intolerances that suffocate the fire and make it smaller with a lot of smoke instead of having it burning clean. This is why we so often speak of an essential purification of the heart sanctuary, because a pure heart is an energetic necessity for reaching freedom. A pure heart has nothing to hide. A pure heart has no hidden grievances. A pure heart knows no slander. A pure heart knows no petty lies or deceit. A pure heart neither reacts when these things are piled up against it. A pure heart does not need to rise above others, and it neither needs to place itself below others either. When we bear this fire in the heart, then its sacred remedy touches others through humility, through every gesture, and through every deed. That is the sign of a pure heart. When we purify our heart, then the fire is lit. But also when our mind becomes still, together with our pure heart, it becomes the mirror of that fire. And when the mirror of the mind reflects the fire of the brightly burning heart, then the human being becomes luminous. Not metaphorically, but in essence. Words and deed can then stop being poisonous and become pure and spontaneously healing. Our whole presence can become healing simply because there is nothing obstructing the light that we essentially are. This is achieved by surrendering all our I-centered duplicity. This is achieved by overcoming conflict in the conflict-free space of the light. This happens through our soul-to-soul connections and through returning again and again to that simple willingness to release what is false and to trust what is real and full of love, and to come with real deeds instead of well-sounding words. We become light when we stop clinging to wounds, when we stop hiding in fear, and stop pretending to be something that we are not. And as we give up our vices by trusting them to their antimatter, shadows dissolve one by one, and what is left behind is pure light. The pure and constant light that needs no explanation. This is your original state, This is your inheritance, to be a carrier of the fire of the heart that loves without needing proof, to be a bearer of the mirror of the mind that only sees without a need to judge. And we are not here on our inner pilgrim's path to run away from shadows. We are here to shed light on them so that we can live from the divine fire of love that we carry in our hearts to spread its warmth and its light to others. And when there's one heart that burns pure, then other hearts are also touched by that fire. And when one mind is still, then also other minds start to remember what stillness is. And as we clear out our lives from the shadows that block the light, then the world also finds the direction in which it can heal. If you choose to navigate on love and truth that is in the light and come to silence, then you will also come to your deepest essence as a fire of love, a mirror of truth, and a light bringer of peace to all. Thank you.